Hello and welcome back to another document deep dive, and this time we're going to do one of the older ones that isn't an AAR, but we're going to look at a unit, in this case at Panzer Brigade 110, which is why you're seeing a picture of a late version SDK of that 251 here. Now these Panzer Brigades are mostly known for the battles in Lorraine, where some of these freshly created brigades were chewed up by, among others, 4th Armored Division, US Armored Division, and their fancy Panzers lost against 75mm armed German tanks. That's one of these things that you often hear. Generally speaking, these Panzer Brigades were a short-lived new kind of unit that was kind of like a small, concentrated Panzer unit that was supposed to work like one of those improvised Kampfgruppe that they used on the Eastern Front to make Panzer divisions more mobile. Basically, it was like a Panzer division, but it had only the cool part that Wehraboots care about. That's kind of what you can imagine here. Now, the example we will be looking at here in terms of equipment mostly is the 110th Panzer Brigade, which was created like the others in July and August 1944. It was then thrown into the front in September 1944 with kind of mixed results, but they were thrown into the front on the Eastern Front near Budapest at this time. And what happened in October 1944 then was that they basically got subsumed by the 13th Panzer Division and fought then on as part of that division. Now, the actual unit that we will be looking at is the infantry element, the ones that were driving around in these SPWs, which is what the Germans called the APCs, because those were very weirdly equipped and organized in these Panzer Brigades, and that's worth taking a look at. The documents are again from the German Docs in Russia page. So we are going to start with the order to actually create this unit. It says here, daily order. In this difficult time, when the concentric assault of our enemies threatens the destruction of our people, the Führer has ordered the formation of Panzer Brigade 110 Feldherrnhalle. Note here, Feldherrnhalle is the name of a hall in, I think in Munich, where during the failed Nazi putsch there were certain martyrs by the Nazi party. I don't actually remember the details. This unit was in terms of ideology and ancestry based on the SA. Goes on here, it will have to fulfill special tasks decisive for the fateful struggle of our people. Flowing from and building upon the National Socialist worldview, imbued with the words of our SA that have proven themselves in every battle, this brigade must and will always, true to its name Feldherrnhalle, become a firmly welded community of fanatically enduring hard fighters. In the hardest fighting resolve, unbreakably loyal to the Führer, unconditionally ready for any sacrifice, unshakable in belief in victory. With this pledge we set out on our path, determined to complete it, proud of the trust placed in us by the Führer, bound by the memory of our comrades who, since the day before the Feldherrnhalle, have gone before us in our struggle unto victory. So, yeah, and Heil the Führer. So now, obviously the video will be buried, but yeah, that's kind of the ideological background here. Let's go into the more nitty-gritty detail. Now, this is the plan for a Panzer Brigade, and as you can see, this is not a full division, so it's not a unit that is actually able to function on its own. There's a staff company here, company, and then it only has 2 battalions, right? So we have the Panzer Battalion here, and it had one company of Panzer IV L70, which is basically the Jagdpanzer IV, and then 3 companies, each with 11 Panzers. And the Panzer Grenadiers, this is the unit that these reports are from, and you can already see that this looks kind of weird. Now, so what you can see here immediately is that they have a ton of these so these are drillings. So with each of these Panzer Grenadier companies, there are supposedly 2 drillings and 2 7.5 centimeter guns. The drilling is this vehicle here, which is an SDKFZ 251/21, which had anti-aircraft machine guns, or I should say actually aircraft machine guns, 3 of them in this kind of flak mount. The main purpose of this was actually not AA, although it could do that as well. And there's actually in this folder success reports that they shot down Soviet biplanes with that. But it was mostly there for fire support against infantry and dug-in positions, that kind of thing. The 7.5 centimeter guns are these well-known ones, the SDKFZ 251/9, which is just the normal SPW, but mounting the 75 centimeter infantry support gun on top. Lastly, what is also mentioned by this unit are these Wurfrahmen, which are also called Stuka zu Fuß or Stuka on foot. And these were mounted to the sides of the SPW, and they could shoot HE, 28 centimeter, or incendiary rockets, which were 32 centimeter rockets. And now these were not like a Panzerwerfer, where they were actual like long-range artillery. They were relatively short range, and the point was to almost use them in direct fire against hard targets. So with that out of the way, back to here. So as you can see, they had a lot of these drillings. 6 actually. I said 2 earlier. I think 2 is because they were supposed to be 2 centimeter. However, in practice they were 1.5 centimeter only in caliber. So they had 6 in each of these rifle companies. The rifle companies were completely mounted on SPWs, including the 8 centimeter mortars here. So the M mortars were 8 centimeter. The S ones here in the 5th company, in the heavy company, these were 120 millimeter mortars, which were in itself a copy of the Russian 120 millimeter mortar. So yeah, this is the heavy company, and the rest, this is a drillings company, so they had 12 all in all. Well, actually 3 times 6, not 12, 18 actually. So this is the drillings company, and then these are the rifle companies with their own drillings, right? So lots of drillings. That was the whole theme of this unit. So you have the supply stuff here. One thing that's interesting in the Panzer unit, you have the 3.7 centimeter flak on tank 4 times, so this would be probably a Möbelwagen. And they also had 3 drillings, but on a truck, so unarmored. So these here were on SPWs, the ones in the Panzer HQ were on trucks. Back to the drilling, one thing that kind of doesn't come across in this picture, which is I think one of the pre-production models, is that this is not actually like an enclosed turret or, I don't know, remote controlled or whatever. There's just a guy sitting in there turning this around a bit like Rambo, and was fairly exposed, so this is open to the top, which will become a problem as we shall see later. Table time. So this is a Soll an Personal und Waffen für Panzerbrigade. So this is how many people they were supposed to have, and how many weapons they were supposed to have. And the way it works is you have the columns here, and for each of the units there's the sum down here. And we have here the Panzer Grenadier Battalion GP, that means the Panzer Grenadier Battalion Armored, which is what these documents are from, so this area is that. So you can get an overview here. Some things I want to mention is that the 1st company and the 2nd company, which were the actual rifle companies, had 56 MP44s here, each. So the actual rifle elements, the actual rifle squads were supposed to be equipped with MP44. And other things like heavy machine gun crews, to a degree vehicle crews, and you know, for support guns and so on. They have still had the normal rifles, so 30 rifles, and the normal 9mm submachine guns, 30 MP40s. So all in all, at full strength, you would expect them to have 112 MP44s, 75 light machine guns, MG42s of course, and then 176 of the older 9mm submachine guns. And to me, this was always a weird point with these Panzer Brigade units, that they were supposed to have, in contrast to all other Panzer Grenadier units, they were supposed to have these MP44s. And I was never sure if that was actually done. Did these units that got smashed in Lorraine, did they actually field the MP44 in large numbers on the Western Front. I was never quite clear on that. All the information about these units usually concentrated on the new model Panzers that they had and that kind of thing, but never on the infantry aspect. So this was something to look into. And again, here they claim that the flak drilling would be 2 centimeter, which was true for the late war version, but this early interim period version was 1.5 centimeter. So, since we are looking at the infantry, some more detail here. Now they helpfully marked some interesting parts for us here apparently, and were as confused as I am sometimes. So they say here they would not have enough 9mm submachine guns, which at this point were being phased out in production in favor of the MP44. So instead they only were supposed to receive 33% of those, and for the missing ones they were supposed to get additional K43s. And yeah, they were confused by that apparently. So yeah, G43s or K43s were supposed to be substituted for the 9mm MPs. And it says here, as we already saw, 112 MG44, they mean MP44, but that's a clerical error. 112 MP44s with their normal ammunition contingent were to be fielded for every Panzer brigade. There was a promise here. And then lastly here, for that we have the ammunition loadout. And they were not supposed to get Panzerschreck apparently. But here is the number of Panzerfaust. So this is for the staff of the Panzer Grenadier Battalion 4, and then each of these companies would have 3 for each rifle squad, 18 all in all. So every rifle squad 3 Panzerfausts, and the heavy grenade launcher groups, so the 120mm mortar groups would have 2, each of them. Yeah. The MP44 would have 180 shot per man, so that's, if you're working on that kind of game, maybe a realistic loadout for that. And the Stuka zu Fuß, you know, the heavy rocket launchers, would have 12 28 centimeter HE ones and 6 incendiary ones for each of the vehicles, basically. And the drilling here, 3,000 shots in each SPW. Later we find this handwritten note that actually says the actual weapon loadout that they got on the 6th of October 1944. This is, as far as I know, actually after they first went into combat, but shortly after, so this is probably when they were at full strength. So bayonets, normal rifles, pistols, and what we see here, first of all, is they did receive, as promised, all 112 MP44s. So apparently the infantry here was completely equipped with assault rifles, which is interesting. Now, what is a bit weird, so they didn't receive all of the MP40s, but more than they were promised, and 50 of those were apparently, so within these 50 were replaced with G43s. So this includes the G43, so they were up to strength there. And then additionally to that, they had 2 Karabiner, so K43s, which is basically the same gun but a different name, so this is a bit confusing. They only had 2 sniper rifles, which also don't show up in any of the planning documents. These were probably the ZF-41, and then 85 MG42s here, rifle grenade launchers, and so on here. But yeah, they were pretty up to strength, and you can see here 42 drillings that they had. So, quick excursus here for those modelers. This is how officially their numbers were supposed to be affixed to the vehicles. So, for those of you who like to build scale models, this is for you. This is the scheme for those numbers. So first number is the company number, second is the platoon number, third is the leader of the squad, basically, and then there's some examples here. First platoon, first group would be 1-1. Before they went into combat, there was time for some romance. It says here, on the 29th of September 1944, Obergefreiter Funk was married in absentia with the 5th Company. The company assembled on a meadow framed by cannons and heavy mortars. Very romantic. The battalion commander personally conducted the ceremony. He first read aloud the marriage certificate, which was then signed by Obergefreiter Funk. By this act, the marriage was concluded. In his address, the commander regretted that the external circumstances unfortunately did not allow the young couple to properly celebrate this day together. Yet, he said, the inner bond was no less strong because of it. In this hour, the young wife's thoughts were surely with her husband. The commander then conveyed the heartfelt congratulations of the entire battalion and added his best wishes for a long and happy marriage. As a wedding gift, he presented the Führer's book Mein Kampf. That's going to be awkward in a couple of months. The company commander wished the young husband, among other things, that he might come through the next deployment well, so that he could go on leave to his wife as soon as possible. Okay, yeah. He then presented several gifts from the company. With a salute to the Führer, the impressive celebration was brought to a close. The battalion then went into combat, where it suffered heavy casualties and was later merged into the 13th Panzer Division, into the 66th Panzer Grenadier Battalion, where it then still continued with combat. Now, if we are not going to do that here, but if there are interests, or if there's interest in one of these AARs, we can do a video about that as well, it's no problem. But anyway, at this point, this is the 31st of October 1944, and they were in the 13th Panzer Division, and they actually sent over an experience report about how their unit handled. And it describes here the actual organization in practice. So the battalion staff here, the 1st and 2nd SPW company had each 2 rifle platoons with 4 SPWs, 1 heavy platoon with 2 8cm grenade launchers or mortars, and 2 75mm KWKs, so on the half tracks, and 1 drillings platoon with 6 drillings. So as we saw, 3rd company, same thing. But apparently the 3rd company was equipped like a normal Panzer Grenadier company in terms of the small arms loadout, so they did not have the MP44s. And they also didn't have these elements here. The 4th was the drillings company with the 18 drillings, and then the 5th was the heavy company with a cannon platoon and the heavy grenade launchers with 120mm and 2 of the Stuka zu Fuß, and then the supply stuff. What they do say here is that they did not have any of the motorcycles that were assigned, and almost no Volkswagens, so almost no Kübelwagens. Now I will skip over the communication stuff, even though that's technically important, but we're Vera booths over here, so we're going to look at the weapons. And here we are. Number 3, weapons. The strong equipment of the battalion with all kinds of weapons contributed significantly to its successes, well, obviously. So it goes here through the new and major weapon systems. So, number 1, triple-mounted MG 151/15 have proven themselves excellently. For the gunners, the immediate introduction of the new rifle bulletproof steel helmet is proposed, or alternatively the installation of frontal head protection, since most gunners became casualties due to headshots from the front. The armor plate installed behind the gunner had to be removed because it severely restricted freedom of movement and made reloading very difficult. For reloading under cover, the introduction of a roller is proposed, since the gunner currently has to stand fully exposed when loading and clearing jams. Number 2, the heavy launchers, so the Stuka zu Fuß ones. The heavy launchers are, like the drillings, a weapon especially feared by the enemy. Wherever the heavy projectiles, especially incendiary ones, were used, the enemy either fled in panic or surrendered. Thanks to the comparatively rapid readiness to fire and what can be considered good accuracy, the heavy launchers are an indispensable weapon of the battalion, which often provided relief in the most critical situations. A double number of launcher frames would be desirable, since, as experience shows, owing to the heavy strain of firing the projectiles, usually only one vehicle is operational. A disadvantage is the still short range of 1,925 meters, which forces the vehicle to drive up to the foremost line. Early delivery of the new version is very desirable. So apparently there was some kind of new version planned that I've never heard of. In the document here, it's called WK43, which probably stands for Wurfkörper 43. Never heard of that one. So, number 3, the 7.5 centimeter cannon SPW, the K37 and K51 have once again proven themselves very well in all deployments. As before, no complaints are reported. Carrying on here, 12 centimeter mortars are likewise a weapon that has proven itself excellently and in many operations had to replace the lack of artillery. Desirable would be pneumatic tires for the carriages as on the front wheels of the SPW. The 8 cm mortar on SPW is a proven weapon without complaints. MG42 on SPW is a proven weapon without complaints. Number 7, the MP43, here they still call it that. The MP43 is an outstanding weapon which has proven itself very well in the rifle platoons of the 1st and 2nd companies. Equipping the entire armored battalion with this weapon is proposed. And it says here, summary, the strong firepower enables the battalion to carry out independent tasks as well. However, overall in actual combat all weapons have fully proven themselves. And what it says here, which apparently didn't get translated, they mostly fought while on the vehicles. So they were almost used like a tank unit instead of an infantry unit. So what they did propose are some changes here. And there are some small changes. One thing they say is that the 1st and 2nd SPW company completely equipped them with MP43 except for the board MG. Same thing with 3rd company as before. But they also want to have 2 cannon SPWs here as well, and also MP43s. They did want to get rid of the complete drilling company, so the one with the 18 drillings. And instead they want to create from that a staff company with 2 7.5 cm pucks, not mounted actually, but they wanted them to be towed. They argued in a different document that them being mounted means that once you knock out the vehicle, the gun is lost as well, which, okay. They want to have 1 platoon of drillings there with 6 drillings, and 1 flame SPW with 6 flame SPWs, or 1 pioneer platoon. Flame SPWs were used by this unit, or not by this unit, but by 13th Panzer Division in pioneer units, not in this Panzer Brigade unit. And apparently they worked together with the Panzer Brigade units once they were incorporated and made quite an impression. Heavy company the same as before, but they wanted more Stuka zu Fuß, and they wanted drillings and pucks with the supply company for defense. So this document here is from the 29th of October, when they were already a part of 13th Panzer Division. And this is a daily report that shows you how heavy casualties they actually had. So here you can see how many officers, NCOs and men were left in the different companies. So for example, 1st company had 2 officers, 11 NCOs and only 43 men left for the complete company. And down here you can see the equipment as well. So for 1st company they had 1 leader SPW, 2 cannon ones were left, but only 1 drilling, and only 3 SPWs were left. And yeah, I'm not going to read out everything, but you can see here Nachrichten means communication, this is ammo obviously, and then cannon and so on. Wurfrahmen means Stuka zu Fuß. On this day they didn't lose anything in particular, but these are the ones that are in repair. So 11 drillings are in repair, 2 heavy grenade launchers, 1 I think Stuka zu Fuß, and these SPWs. Yeah, heavy casualties here if they have 11 SPWs all in all in repair. Also quite interesting for that day, so these are the losses. This means they are wounded by still with a troop, so 1 NCO. These are field aid stations, so 2 officers, 2 NCOs, 18 men were heavily wounded apparently. Then fallen, 2 and 1, and missing nobody. And this is the ammunition that they went through on this day: 2,000 shots of drilling ammunition, 1,000 shots of general infantry ammunition, and these are the heavy grenade launcher 80 120mm rounds that they fired. This is how long each company or staff drove. So this was during a wave of counterattacks and not like positional warfare, which is of course not what that kind of unit is for. It's for counterattacks and moving around. So these are the kilometers driven. And then down here what they captured and so on. So PAC, AT rifles, heavy MG, light MG, 115 killed or wounded, and 39 horses. Lastly, this is a bit interesting. Because they talk here about some weapons. So first of all, how much ammunition they have left, but also what kind of weapons they will get, and here is where it gets weird. So Wurfrahmen, so they get one Stuka zu Fuß that they will receive on the 28th of October. One 4.7 centimeter Pak Russian. Now this is weird because as far as I know the Russians used 4.5 centimeter Paks. And one further one for the 29th of October, which they would use as captured weapons. So now here it says that all companies were ordered to give away all the Russian submachine guns with the drum mags and all munitions to a Lieutenant Misovite. And this guy is supposed to convert them to 9mm for the normal German pistol ammunition. Now this kind of conversion is not unheard of. They were usually called MP41R in German use, not to be confused with the weird MP41 that they also had. That was kind of used by the SS mostly. And yeah, this is apparently one of these cases where these were made. Now what's interesting here, they say the end goal is to equip a complete company with MP43 and another company with converted Russian submachine guns in 9mm. So probably because they had the rifle companies, right, and one of them wasn't equipped with MP43s. So the idea is to equip that one with Russian submachine guns converted to 9mm, which is, I don't think I've ever heard about something like that happening. I don't know if it happened in this case or if this was just some kind of pipe dream. One thing I will notice that there's another document later where they kind of request that this Lieutenant Mr. White is not reassigned because of his work. It is possible that he got taken away and this was not finished. But yeah, it is quite possible that in the 13th Panzer Division there were Panzer Grenadiers completely equipped with these MP41Rs. Anyway, interesting late war German unit. Now they were quite fond of their equipment, as you can see, but in itself these units of course were a failure, as you can see, because of them getting folded into the Panzer Division proper units, right? That said, they seem to me weirdly modern, or weirdly Cold War, in the sense that almost everyone has an assault rifle, and these drillings do remind me, even though they were improvised and kind of wonky, of these modern APCs that have the 2 centimeter guns on top, or I don't know what caliber these actually are. I don't know modern warfare that well, but there's something weirdly modern here, but also something kind of odd. Anyway, hope you enjoyed it, thanks for watching and have a nice day.